Hello, and welcome to the Word on the Streets August Book Talk. This month, we are celebrating the launch of debut author Pamela Korgemagi's The Hunter and the Old Woman, out from House of Anansi Press this month. Our guest this month is House of Anansi's senior editor, Michelle MacAleese, to tell us more about this fantastic new title. Michelle has edited a number of best-selling and award-winning titles by influential writers in Canada, including Jan Arden, Christiane Conlon, Pamela Korgemagi, Rabindranath Maharaj, Lauren McKeon, Dan Needles, and Kelly Small. And I will leave it to Michelle to talk more about The Hunter and the Old Woman.
Thanks, Maya. Hello, I'm the editor of The Hunter and the Old Woman by the incredibly talented Pamela Korgemagi. And thank you for inviting me to Word on the Street to tell you more about this novel of hers. I really appreciate being here today. I've worked with a number of Canada's top literary talents, and I can tell you that Pam is a star. Not even a star in the making, just already a brilliant writer in this country. The Hunter and the Old Woman is her first book. It is the story of a cougar and a man set on a collision course by obsession and destiny. The novel is told from two perspectives, a young boy and an old mountain lion that he and all the other townspeople call the Old Woman. And much of the book takes us into the perspective of the Old Woman herself, who is also called in her chapters simply the cougar. And I'd like to give you a taste of this extraordinary book by reading an excerpt. What you need to know about this passage from chapter 5, The Apprentice, is that we meet the cougar's son. He's from her most recent brood of cubs. And the cougar herself is just recovering from a serious injury that she experienced not long before. And they're about to encounter another challenge. The cougar awoke to the sunset. Sometimes she stirred during the day because her side was hurting, and in a half-conscious state she would turn her back on the light and return to sleep. But on this day she awoke, not in pain, but to a clarity and calm, as if she had been called awake, and now that she had awoken, the voice was silent. She sat listening into the day, growing suspicious. She rose, favoring her injured side. With a limp that lessened as she went, the cougar left the cave in the mountainside and stood on a stone ledge overlooking the forest. A breeze hitched the branches to one side, and on that slight wind, the cougar smelled the sharp scent of smoke. She searched the cloudless sky, but the mountain forbade much of her view. There was still no sign of the foretold smoke. Doubly suspicious since her accident, she learned to trust her instincts when it came to danger, to heed the signs, and she did not doubt her sense of smell. It did not seem unnatural to her that she might be smelling smoke which was yet to be. It had not rained. The leaves were yellowing on the trees. The sun had faded the forest roof, so instead of the usual lush green, a mottled yellow and gold canopy stood before her. The heat hung in the air, refusing to vacate the forest. The smell of moist earth was a distant memory. The cougar noticed her son sitting behind her. She hadn't heard him approach, but it pleased her that he had learned the importance of silence. He sat searching the trees, sniffing the wind. He too sensed the strange air around them. The cats shared a glance as if the same thought passed between them from one eye to the other. The cougars made their way down the mountainside. The scent of smoke greeted them once they entered the trees. Tall spruce towered over them, blocking the view of the sky, so they were not able to determine the origin of the smoke. The light fell, and they were blue cougars in a blue forest. The sound of their cautious footsteps seemed loud to them, magnified by an unnatural silence that occupied the forest. Then, through black trees, they saw an infernal glow coming from the earth. The cougars stopped and stood staring. The cougar's son grunted, but the cougar was hesitant to investigate. Such a disorienting angle of light was not to be trusted. She turned and headed around it. After a moment, she heard her son following over the crisp leaves. They came to a clearing where they could see the open sky, the ominous presence of smoke rising up from behind the trees around them. The cougar searched her memory of the landscape and knew which way to go, but she was not certain now of what they would find. The land rose, the trees grew sparse, and they saw the forest below, fire crackling along the ground like a slow flood, crawling up the trees, spreading across the leaves so the trees bloomed, each in a flare of light that burned and diminished. The sound of so many trees burning was a dull roar, the violent opposite of the sound the trees usually made. The cougar's son called out, and the cougar gave a low response, but did not stop. They went on as smoke wafted through the trees, driven by the wind. The air grew hazy. In all directions, the earth glowed with that infernal light. They tried to retreat from the flames, but it seemed that everywhere they turned, the fire was already there. Soon they were surrounded. They kept their heads low to the ground, but the air was becoming hard to breathe. They began to see the flames licking towards them through the haze, the menacing glow between the trees, and they picked up their pace. When the crackle of burning grew louder and they could feel the heat on their bodies, they broke into a run. As they ran, the fire seemed to chase them. The hiss and pop of trees burning outmatched the roar of the flames. They could not turn back, for the fire had consumed their trail, and they could not stay where they were, for the very earth beneath their feet would soon be devoured. They went on, finding the places to set their feet as they went. The sound of splintering wood cracked through the air. The cougar's heart leapt as a flaming tree came crashing to the ground before them, its branches breaking off in a shower of sparks. The cougars stalled, their path barred by this blazing heap, their backs harassed by fire. They had no choice but to jump. The cougars rose into the air, the flaming tree lighting up their white chests as they leapt over. A moment of heat hotter than the sun, and then they were clear. The ease with which she jumped surprised the cougar, for she had not called on her body, tested it in such a way since her injury, and though her landing sent a bolt of pain through her side, she did not falter. She heard her son land behind her, and then they went on through the burning forest. I think you can see why Giller Prize winner Michael Redhill calls Pam's novel a convincing portrayal of lives spent in the wild, and what it's like to be alive without the familiar human awareness of self and of time. Even though I've edited several drafts with Pam, I still don't quite know how she did it. She really gets into the mind of a wild cat in a most unforgettable way. Pam studied creative writing with Michael at York University here in Toronto, and this manuscript is the result. It came into my inbox, care of literary agent Samantha Haywood, and from the first moment I started reading, I was absolutely entranced. I remember pacing the hallways of our office at House of Anansi. I was shirking my to-do list, absolutely, turning pages, telling my colleagues about this awesome novel, which was transportive and beautiful and absolutely gripping. You don't have to be a cat person to like this book, but it probably helps. And haven't we all been reminded lately of the appeal of felines, during this work from home era? Pam and I both have cats, and we both auditioned our own house cats for the cover design of this book. Unfortunately, neither of them measured up in their auditions, and we we couldn't match the striking appeal of this face that our art director found for this gorgeous design. These days, we're working from home, we're also taking more walks and hanging out in the park. And I think it's reminding us all that nature has that power to heal us and support us, and also to destroy us. I mean, we have witnessed devastating wildfires and other emergencies in our world. These big issues are infused into this novel, but in a way that is dramatized through lives lived in the wild, these characters you come to be attached to, and infused into this book in a way that is just felt viscerally, thanks to Pam's insights and thanks to her skill with language. It has been very gratifying to see The Hunter and the Old Woman published this month and received with such enthusiasm by writers, reviewers, booksellers in both the US and Canada. LitHub called it one of the novels that you need to read this summer. So please don't hold back. Follow your instincts and pick up Pamela Korgemagi's incredible novel from your local bookseller. Let it transport you into the world of The Old Woman. Thank you for having me, and take care, and happy reading.